All right, time for our B-Movie Banter interview with Scott Thompson, who currently stars as one of the Lawrence Fishburne as Jack Crawford's forensic squad on the NBC hit Hannibal. And if you don't know him from his current work, you may remember him as the dude who played a waiter over 100 times on The Kids in the Hall. Nonetheless, we talked Dr. Lecter, what to expect from Season 3, which starts in June, his post-mortem interviews with fellow Hannibal cast and crew members, and even his favorite scene from Kids. Can you say soup? Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Thompson. All right, something I have to ask. For someone who's done so much comedy, most notably The Kids in the Hall, how did you come to be cast for Hannibal?
Well, I just auditioned. I put myself on tape, and Brian Fuller, the creator, I guess saw my name on the tape, and he was a fan, and watched it and said, "Oh, give it to him." And it was that simple. I never thought I aced it or anything. I really think it's because Brian was a fan and thought, wow, this will be an interesting person to put into this part. And I think he enjoys that. He likes taking people that are known for comedy and putting them into non-comic situations like Eddie Izzard and people like that.
Now, quite a few cable shows like The Walking Dead can get pretty graphic, but that's not typical for network programming. For NBC,
No.
Hannibal really has some horrific scenes, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It goes pretty far. I'm quite amazed, actually.
There were originally 3 members of the Lawrence Fishburne as Jack Crawford forensics team, but now only 2. Give us your breakdown of your Jimmy Price character, and what do you think the future holds for him as someone who once corrected the all-knowing Dr. Lecter?
Oh, yeah. Yo, you mean the craquelure?
Yeah.
Yes, that definitely, I think, marked me for not death, something, a rude word. My character's one of those people that's like a, what do they call that, an autodidact?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, is that what they call them? People that know a lot of things about many things.
Mm-hmm.
Not a trivia expert, but he's very smart, and but has a bit of he sometimes speaks out of turn, and is quite impulsive, but very devoted to his work and very devoted to the FBI. But I think maybe socially a little inept.
Now, Anthony Hopkins is renowned for his portrayal of Hannibal Lecter, of course, and Brian Cox was the first to play him in Manhunter. What's your take on Mads Mikkelsen's version of the not-so-good Doctor?
I think actually Mads is the best Hannibal Lecter ever. I've seen all the portrayals, I've seen all the movies, and I just think his is the best. It's the closest to the book. And I find it incredibly... It's funny because Anthony Hopkins, I think he's brilliant in it, but he goes very far. He's very over the top. I think what's interesting about Mads is that he's under the top, if there is an expression. He underplays everything, and I find that really interesting, especially because the graphics and the violence is so over the top that I think his performance being so modulated makes it more horrifying.
Now, one of the most intriguing aspects of the show to me is Hugh Dancy's take on Will Graham. His relationship with Hannibal has been called a bit of a bromance, but with this Will Graham, he's frightened and apprehensive of Lecter, but he's also not outwardly afraid of him. He challenges almost to the point of being adversarial. What's your perception of Dancy's Graham in the show?
Well, I definitely think there's a attraction. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, their sexuality is very strange. I mean, Lecter's sexuality, I can't quite put a handle on it. I think Will Graham's never met anyone like this in his life, and he's intrigued, and I don't know if he's turned on, maybe intellectually, but I think one of the interesting things about their relationship is it shows in some ways the fluidity of sexuality, and that even though Will Graham is ostensibly a heterosexual character, as is Hannibal Lecter, there's always gray in everyone's life. And there are always people that are maybe outside of your spectrum that are so interesting, so they trigger things inside of you that they pull you out of your box, I think. I think Hannibal Lecter is one of those people that has pulled Will out of his box, and vice versa.
Now, whenever new visions for previously told tales come about, there's always nods to the predecessors with lines tossed in here and there. Most times they feel awkward and forced, and though this series is unique with its own ideas and spins, it is based on Thomas Harris's Red Dragon. That said, it's astounding to me that in every episode the writers have dropped lines, be it from Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, and they fit absolutely seamlessly. I'm sure you've noticed that. You said you were a fan of all the previous work, but what do you think of the scripts with which you and the cast provided week to week?
I think the writing's brilliant. I think it's the best thing in the show. I mean, you know, I'm a kid in the hall, and I come from a tradition where people write and perform. And I've always known that writing is the number one thing, and everything flows from the writing. And it's some of the most intelligent, complex writing on television. And then one of the things I think that some people are missing in the show is the humor. I think there's a lot of dark humor that people are missing.
All right, let's just jump right into it. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched the season 2 finale. You may want to stop listening. Not only do we get to see how the showdown between Hannibal and Jack Crawford played out, there's really no other way to put it. It was a bloodbath with a few twists that I'm sure very few people saw coming.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was... I think it was the best finale on television last year. I was blown away by it.
Now we look ahead to the season 3 premiere on June 4th. I know you can't give away too much, but what can viewers expect when Hannibal returns in a couple months?
You can expect, it's hard to say without giving things away. It's definitely a different tone, a different show this year. A lot of it takes place in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So I would expect more strange European accents.
All right, fair enough.
And I don't mean strange in an offensive way, because people are so sensitive nowadays.
Right,
what do you mean by strange? To say European accents.
All right. And then talk to us a bit about your post-mortem interview series, you know, beyond the fact that you wanted to hijack Hannibal's office and get yourself more screen time. How did that come to be? Was it your idea, or did the show's creators come to you and ask you to do it?
I do a podcast called Scott Free, and Brian and I have become friends, and I had everybody on a bunch of people. I had Lawrence on, some others on the show, and Brian, I've been trying to get Brian on to do it, but he didn't have the time. And then I said to Brian, maybe it would be interesting if I did it, if I brought my podcast to the show and possibly interviewed different people in the show, maybe people that people aren't more as aware of, like special effects and that sort of thing, the creative team and the cinematography. And Brian said, well, why don't we do a combination and turn it into a kind of a little in-house talk show. So it basically came from that, and Brian took that idea and ran with it, and went to the powers that be, and they basically decided to make this. But basically the idea is, you know, there is a kind of a comic conceit that I am trying to get onto the show more. Mm-hmm. But so that's how it happened. Basically, it came from my podcast.
Mm-hmm. So what is your relationship with the Kids in the Hall, being a part of that group? What has that meant for your career?
Well, there is no career for me without them. It's everything. It's where I learned everything, and where I unlearned everything as well. Because when I came to the Kids in the Hall, I was a trained actor, and I had a lot. And when I met them, I realized, oh, this is what I want to do. But I've been with them since I was very young, for 30 years. This year is our 30th anniversary that we met. I mean, some of us were teenagers, and now we're embarking on another tour. I mean, maybe our 6th North American tour with new material, and it's exciting. I mean, it's the number one relationship in my life, other than, you know, my family and friends, etc. But the Kids in the Hall is my creative marriage. Mm-hmm. That's how I would put it. I'm in for life.
And then finally, I have to ask, you played a waiter on Kids in the Hall over 100 times. Do you have a favorite scene portraying a waiter on the show?
I think probably the one is when I soup. I think that's the one, because that's the one that it turns from soup where I basically come out, and that's where I came out of the closet on television, and that was pretty exciting to do that live on TV 25 years ago.
Yeah.
That's the one I remember.
All right, well, Scott Thompson, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk with us today. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
All right, you take care.